Let's go how far back, Jesse?
Way, way back.
To 2008. Bronson is a British biographical prison drama directed by our friend Nicholas Winding Refn, based on a script written by Refn and Brock Norman Brock.
This is where you can see. This is the other place you see Refn fall apart a little bit. He didn't write Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And when he has to write and direct his own writing, well, things get interesting.
The film stars Tom Hardy as Michael Peterson, known from 1987 as Charles Bronson. The film follows the life of this prisoner, considered Britain's most violent criminal, who has been responsible for a dozen or so cases of hostage-taking while incarcerated. The film received positive reviews from critics. It was made on a paltry budget of $230,000. It made
almost all of which went to the dream sequence in the middle when we just get the flashes of his art.
The box office was $2,703,762, so wild success, all things considered. Upon release, Bronson received positive reviews, with many praising Hardy's performance, the film's writing and direction, as well as the humor and the action sequences, though it was criticized for its violence. Rotten Tomatoes gives the film an approval rating of 75% based on 79 reviews, with an average rating of 6.5 out of 10. Undeniably gripping, Bronson forces the viewer to make some hard decisions where the line between art and exploitation lies. Metacritic gives the film a generally favorable review of 71 out of 100. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars. And he says, I suppose after all, Nicholas Winding Refn, the director and co-writer of Bronson, was wise to leave out any sort of an explanation. Can you imagine how you'd cringe if the film ended in a flashback of little Mickey undergoing childhood trauma? There is some human behavior beyond our ability to comprehend. I was reading a theory the other day that a few people just happen to be pure evil. I'm afraid I believe it. They lack any conscience, any sense of pity or empathy for their victims. But Bronson is his own victim. How do you figure that? As Robert said, I had never seen this movie prior to putting together this podcast. Jesse, you had never seen it before this either, right? Didn't even know what this was?
Right.
Okay. Robert,
to the shock of no one, most cultured.
Well, I'm going to give you the chance to do the little bit of intro talking here. And don't go into your craft review and don't go into a 20-minute diatribe, but tell me your relationship to the film, like when you saw it, your first impressions, etc.
Another one I saw not too long after it came out, maybe a year or so. How did you find
this film? What particular trash can were you rooting through?
I think this was on Netflix.
Okay.
At the time, I don't know if it still is or not, but this is back in the day when you didn't have 18 million streaming services. You kind of just had Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like this showed up there a lot because there was no other streaming exhibition site. So I watched it there, and I watched it because it got buzz a little bit, especially the Tom Hardy thing. And I'd stumbled onto Hardy. There's something he did before this. I can't for the life of me remember what it was, but it's one of those movies where most of it is bad, but there's an actor there that you can see is good. And they're young enough that can be like, oh, that guy might do something. And that's and then, I kind of just saw the poster that was the thumbnail on Netflix and went, oh yeah, I was interested in that a little bit. Why not? So yeah, I watched it, and this was kind of one of the things that also further sold me on Tom Hardy being a very, very good actor.
If you can see it a little bit in the poster and the art that I created for this, A Clockwork Orange for the 21st Century.
That's a bit much.
I can see the parallels. So here's the plot of this thing. There we go. The hyper-stylized biopic directed by Refn follows the surreal and theatrical life of Michael Peterson, better known as Charlie Bronson, one of Britain's most violent prisoners. Played with terrifying intensity by Tom Hardy, Bronson narrates his own story through fourth wall-breaking monologues, reflecting on his thirst for fame through chaos and brutality. Despite brief stints of freedom and art, Bronson always returns to violence and confinement in his preferred stage. As somebody who's worked in the correctional mental health field for over 10 years,
you must have just had a ball with this one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. For over 10 years, I've always been fascinated with that and the few years I was tangentially, partially tepidly involved in the local BDSM kink scene. I've always been sort of fascinated with the idea of not fitting in any way with society. So you create sort of a niche for yourself where you're forcing people to control you and then acting out against that control so as to continue to further make sure that you're incarcerated, captured, controlled, dominated, etc. These are fascinating aspects to me. I'm not asking you to join me in my fascination or even appreciate it. I'm saying this is fascinating to me. And as I watched Bronson, I was deeply interested in a sociopath who has determined that modern life is not for him. And so I will act out with aplomb and force society to reckon with me. And if you don't submit, it's like a topping from the bottom thing. If you don't submit to my will and chain me to the wall, essentially, if you don't imprison me in some way, I'm just going to keep acting out. I'm just going to brat out, essentially. I'm going to violently assert myself as over you and as many of you as possible. And I'm deeply interested in the psychology of all that. And if Jesse, if you're just like, is there any possible way I could be involved in this conversation? Because I don't know what the hell to say to any of that. Oh gosh, I had it and I lost it. But I was thinking about something that you and I actually did talk about, so hopefully it'll come back to me. But I'm watching him, commit these ultra violent acts. I'm watching him, hurt people, kill people. I'm watching him, essentially say,
Fight a dog.
Huh?
Fight a dog at one point.
Yeah, fight a dog. Yeah, and almost like daring the world. Oh, the Joker. That's okay. Our podcast where we discuss the 3 Joker books
coming up soon.
And when I watched this, I was like, if I could find kind of a common ground where Jesse can be like, yeah, I see what you're saying. In many ways, the character of Bronson reminded me of our discussion of how we described the Joker, of stop taking pity on me. Stop thinking I'm curable. Stop assuming that anything less than my death, is acceptable, because I'm just going to keep hurting people. There's no reasoning with me. There's no talking to me. If you're looking for a very specific Joker, the Joker from The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker, of like, when they're saying like you can't reason with him, or like the description of the aliens. There's no reasoning with these things. The xenomorphs. There's no reasoning with these things. There's no arguing with it. They're just killing machines. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of him. And it's funny. Some of my favorite parts of this movie is him doing the art therapy. And the person, I can't remember which actor it is. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but the art therapist sort of relating to him and him going up like, please don't relate to me. Don't treat me like a human. That's not what I want. And boy, have I heard this before. Don't treat me like a person. I don't want to be seen as a person. I want to be seen as something else. I want to be, I want you to feel afraid of me. I want you to dominate me. I want you to feel like I have to be, kept in a cage. It's the only way I feel right with the world. And that's all the things that, like, at least my interpretation of the film, that was all the things I saw in this movie. And then my favorite thing happens. That's towards the end of the movie,
yes.
where he's in his cell.
Once again, if you want to understand how much I know Mark, you have to understand this, everybody. When I first told Mark, Tom Hardy's a good actor, and he was like, Mumbles McGee over there? What are you talking about? I mean, oh, boy. Look, watch his stuff in Peaky Blinders, watch Bronson. I gave Mark a few things. Mm-hmm. And again, Mark mostly ignored me. Now, this was a few years into our association. Had we ever revisited this topic where Mark went, hey, give me, here's all the stuff you've said to me over the years that I should watch. You know me better now. Sell me on this stuff now that you know me better. I would have looked at Bronson and he goes full frontal nudity and demands this poor diminutive other man grease him up like groundskeeper Willie to lunch lady Doris, and then fist fights the response unit in this prison unit while fully nude and greased up, like the greased up deaf guy from Family Guy. And Mark would have immediately gone, take my pants, I'm going to watch this movie.
Speaking of take my pants, I'm going to watch this movie. Prior to this podcast tonight, my girlfriend says, tell me something. Whisper sweet nothings in my ear. Say something to me. I want to rest comfortably to the dulcet sounds of your bassy voice. And I said, let me tell you about this scene with greased up Tom Hardy, full frontal nudity, fighting a bunch of cops. And she says to me, I hear what you're saying. And I said, but wait, there's more. I said, she had said to me, boyfriend. And I said, yes, girlfriend. That's how we talk to each other. She said, boyfriend, you are stuck with me forever. I am forever yours. We will walk together to the ends of time, hand in hand, arm in arm, face to face. I am, you are never getting rid of me. And I said, I hear what you're saying, but here's how I want to die. I want to die naked, greased up, fighting cops. And she took a deep sighing breath, and she looked at me and she said, that's not going to push me away, but now I don't know how to deal with this because I'm going to have to take care of you in your old cantankerous age. How the hell am I supposed to deal with you naked fighting cops as an old man? I just want to have a nice retirement. Anyway, my point being with that silliness is I absolutely love this movie. It is craft-wise not as good as Drive.
Yeah.
There's too many flat angles by comparison because it's not a badly made movie. But if it's Bronson feels like somebody's first indie film. Drive feels like a fully realized feature. Yeah. And that's really the difference between the two. But if you're asking me, like, which movie, if you had to watch one movie and then die, which of these three would you watch? Bronson, 10 out of 10 times. Bronson. Tom Hardy really, like, when you think about sociopaths, you think about maybe like a John Singleton movie full of gangsters, shooting each other in the street and having absolutely no regard for human life. There's an element of sociopathy that Tom Hardy brings to the Bronson character to where he's not just a rabid animal. He is a deeply thinking, hurting, feeling person who has decided, I am outside the realm of human existence, and therefore you have to deal with me as such, or you're going to be hurt badly. And the thing that makes him a sociopath is the fact that he's perfectly okay with this. There isn't malice in Bronson so much as there is, I am the hurricane. I have no morality. I just destroy.
There's a deep desperation behind it at different points.
Yeah. Again, please.
It's like, I don't know what to do other than grab this poor guy delivering food and demand that you send in the SWAT team. No, it's not actually a SWAT team in most prisons, but send in the SWAT team to deal with me.
It would be, in modern terms, it would be like a blue team.
Yeah. And then, there's that one stretch in the movie where they're like, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to dope you with Haldol, and that's going to be your life now. And you're like, but this sucks.
Yeah.
I want my violence. I want to fight. I wish to interact with the world in some capacity. And here I am just doped up, drooling like an ape while some weird orderly gropes me.
So again, so that Jesse doesn't feel completely left out of the conversation. Jesse, remember in The Dark Knight Returns, I think it's the second or third issue of The Dark Knight Returns where the Joker comes back, but where we meet the Joker, he's just catatonic in a psych ward.
Mm-hmm.
Because Batman's gone and he has no reason to live, but he's not dead. So he's just existing in the sad state of stillness and limbo. And then Batman comes back and he's like, woohoo! Yeah. The cure for my catatonia. My love is returned. And proceeds to burn the city down. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause on Robert just so Jesse can kind of jump in here and then I'll come back to you, Robert.
Yeah, well, hey, look, I didn't know what I was getting with this film at all.
Greased up Tom Hardy, that's what you get.
You should have asked. I would have told you.
Within 10 minutes, I was like, wow, Tom Hardy owns this film. My gosh. It's right off the bat. It's obvious how good of an actor he is. And it just continues. There's moments throughout this thing where you're just like, this guy is phenomenal. So yeah, I didn't, knowing that this was based on a true story, just like you said, Mark, it is fascinating to see this man who has been in prison. It says it right there, 34 years in prison, 30 in solitary.
Yeah.
But the way that I interpreted him is like his only reason for being was violence, and that he loved not that he went out and like specifically planned on hurting people. It was more like, okay, let's go, let's do something, let's fight.
I want to cut in something because it goes with what you're saying, and I don't want to lose this point. Like I lost the Joker thing momentarily, but then like right back into your thing. To the girls who enjoy rope, or boys who enjoy rope, but mostly girls, and I'm thinking of one in particular, they use rope as a way of dealing with their anxiety. And if you don't like BDSM, you don't like S&M, and you're like, and the whole me bringing up rope makes you nervous, think about the people that that use weighted blankets to deal with their anxiety, like 50-pound blankets, because that they need that feeling of security to quell their anxiety, like to not have constraints on them. Like this is why people submit to cuffs, submit to rope, submit to bondage, that sort of a thing. It's because they need that to deal with the dysregulation that they're experiencing on an ongoing basis. That's how I saw this character, is that he is so utterly dysregulated that using violence as a way to get the world to bondage him up, essentially rope him up, was how he could in any way feel normal. Back to you.
Well, I mean, what we've learned pretty early on is that he loves being in prison.
Yeah, he does.
It's a hotel to him. And I think that says a lot about the character. The fact that the person, he's at home there because there's conflict whenever he wants it, they're willing to dish it out, and he can fight. As a young kid, and as we get our first bit of monologue, he's talking about, yeah, I'd love to fight. And I don't know, does he kill I know he attempts to, but does he actually kill anybody? Because I know he tries to strangle the guy but I don't know if he actually succeeded and killed the guy or not, at the psych ward. And I know he hurts the guy at the jewelry store, but I don't know if he's actually killed anybody. I don't know if he takes it to that point. He could have probably did it to the guy in the psych ward, but I imagine he felt that guy deserved it. And that was what kind of brought him out, because he had been drugged up so much, and he was able to fight it enough to where, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to leave my mark. But watching him get drugged, and just in agony because he couldn't do anything. It was his soul that was trying to get out, and it couldn't because it was just tampered down by these chemicals. And then of course he does the jewelry robbery. After he gets out, the queen is tired of him because he causes a riot, which apparently happened.
My favorite thing about this, besides naked greased up Tom Hardy, he was the most expensive prisoner in history.
Right. And and as he's doing it, was just this weird, this one person play in front of this whole audience. You could see like the footage of what happened. I assume what was going on. It looked like it was real. I assume it was pulled. Maybe it wasn't. But either way, that happened. He caused this riot. There was a hunger strike, I believe, that was involved. But anyway, now, okay, hey, we're going to let you go. So now he has to go back out into society for 69 whole days because he's coming back. But what does he do?
Say that was one of my favorite line deliveries when he's back in prison, and just this exasperated guy, even for a Refn movie, looks exasperated and goes, so how was your 2 months after this like hyperkinetic string of images about what he's doing now that he's out? He's getting into bare knuckle fights. He's getting his artwork shown. He's weirdly being hit on some version of a casting couch, which is a Refn just staple. And fights a dog because he just has to fight. And then the warden's like
the Jake Roberts fucking thing about, from he was Beyond the Mat or something else, where he's just talking about, first it's one girl, then it's two girls, then it's three girls, then it's two girls and a boy, it's like you can't.
Then suddenly you need a donkey and a midget.
Yeah, because you can't get regulated. You always have to up it.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of stood out to me, there's a question that's asked of Bronson a couple times throughout this, and that is, what is it that you want? And it never seems like he can really articulate what it is that he wants.
Is what it is, Jesse. I can't. I can't tell you whip me, chain me, tie me up, and beat me. You just have to know.
Right.
It doesn't work if I tell you. You have to react to me.
Yeah.
Or it's nothing. It's like,
yeah.
I can't tell you what it is that I want. You have to figure it out, husband. And he punch your wife.
Oh no!
Okay, we got. You know what? It took us a little over an hour before we got to the domestic violence, so that's a new record.
Yeah,
Robert, what did you think of Bronson? Besides,
yeah, it's a mostly really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is without Tom Hardy, this would be a disaster. I mean,
God, yes.
Yeah.
Put anyone else in that role, and this movie flops.
This is also the least reffing movie of anything we've watched so far.
Yeah, and again, because I think Tom Hardy being able to draw from a real person looks at some of like Refn's eccentricities about, no, we need a long pause here. And he goes, no, look at me. I'm driving this ship. All right, you navigate. I'm steering.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah. So no, the most Refn scene is that one on the casting couch. It's not actually a casting couch, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
That and a couple of things in the mental hospital, but it works in the mental hospital because it's actually a reflection of his doped up reality.
Yeah.
So you kind of just go with it. But the rest of it, like Tom Hardy doesn't wait giant beats between dialogue to deliver his.
No, I mean you scoffed at the Clockwork Orange thing, but he delivers a lot of the line. He delivers a lot of his lines like the guy playing Alex.
Yeah. Why am I blanking on his name? Wonderful actor. Ian McDowell. Ian McDowell, I'm pretty sure.
Ian McDowell, yes. The guy playing Alex. Listen to me. I do a film podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I do see a little bit of that. There's nothing else about this movie that I felt was much like a Clockwork Orange, so I don't quite know where the rest of that comes from. Apart from like,
it spends a lot of its time in prison, and people are not, particularly deep.
Yeah, but they didn't say it's like Shawshank Redemption.
Of which this is not.
Yeah.
But that's one of the only other prison movies any of these idiots have seen.
Speaking of prisons, it reminded me of a little bit. Poet's release and then an inevitable return to Oz. And very much the same way, because McManus has a kind of similar reaction to Poet.
Oh, God, I remember that. He's like, no, my program works. Poet got out. And then I think it's Kearns by that point who's in charge. And he goes, oh, he'll be back here. He's coming back tomorrow. Didn't you hear what happened? He shot a guy at a poetry signing.
Yep.
And then Poet comes back through, and McManus dies a little bit more inside the insufferable.
Where there was once light in McManus's eyes is only darkness.
His slow descent into realizing the utter futility of social work.
I got there very quickly, by comparison.
You did. You didn't have to be held at knife point multiple times.
No, speaking of knife point, we should talk about the Neon Demon, so finish up.
Oh, man.
Again, Bronson's a little bit more experimental than some of these other ones. It's not for everyone, but if our description of some of this sounds like you think you'd enjoy it, you will probably enjoy it. You have to be, there's a very specific wheelhouse you have to be in to enjoy this kind of movie, but if that is a wheelhouse you moonlight in even on occasion, this is a movie worth checking out. Drive you can show to almost your regular theater audience.
Yeah, you've got a stomach for the violence. I'm just curious. I had a lot to say about Bronson. I had a very specific thing, and I'm just curious if there was anything you guys wanted to react to, debate, confront, or if you're just like, whatever, weirdo, whatever you think, and just kind of let it pass, which is a perfectly viable response to what I'm asking. But I didn't want to leave it. I didn't want to put all that out there, and you both are just like, ugh, and then not have a chance to respond.
No, I think a lot of what you said is on the money.
Okay. Yeah. Good. I don't have to ask ChatGPT now.
Well, you have to here's another way. If you're not deep into like kink psychology, when you think about this manifestation of sociopathy, think about 5-year-olds. And that's kind of their mentality.
Yeah, toddlers.
Yeah. These are small hurricanes of chaos who don't know what they're doing, who can't articulate anything. Now just put that in a 200-pound man, and give him a propensity for actual violence. And
Jesse, do you want to dig into your brief excursion into the poly kink BDSM world, where you had to take a quiz on it and share your scores with the podcast universe?
I don't understand why we need to even talk about that. I don't understand how that applies here.
I can't wait to reuse that footage from further TikToks.
Oh my goodness.
you're going to make Jesse TikTok famous in the worst way. He's going to wake up one of these days to a boatload of notifications and go, what the hell, man?
What just happened?
Anyway, I'll give you then the final word, Jesse, and then we'll move on.
Hey, it is. This is movie again. I really enjoyed what was going on here. Bronson is a force of nature. I think, just like you said, he knows what he wants. He can't articulate it at all, and that he takes hostages twice in the prison. He takes the one guy that's bringing him the food, doesn't hurt him, but he makes it seem like he's going to, and the whole reason he does that is so that they can rush in, and so he can get his ass
performative.
Right.
I'm going to behave in a way purposely to incite a particular reaction. And if I don't get that reaction, I'm just going to, speaking of toddlers, I'm just going to amp up. I will get the attention. I'm going to brat out till I get the attention I want if it fucking kills me.
And you're worried about the art teacher as well, because you see him come up behind him and grab him, and you're like, oh, he's dead. No, he doesn't kill him. He puts him and ties him up, and the whole reason is just to get those guys there again, and he's all ready for him, and all he wants is to just wants to
naked
fight.
and covered in all the neon shades of paint.
Yes, indeed. He's ready to go. And he's like, all right, he's had enough. A guy he's tied up and he's crying, and then he's like, he's had enough. Come on in, guys. And then he starts to fight. So I liked this movie. I really did. And I think Tom Hardy did a definite great job of selling it to me.
I assume you didn't traumatize your children and wife with this one?
No way, dude.
No?
If you want to see...
You don't think your Appalachian wife would have dug naked, greased up Tom Hardy? Which is the name of our new band, by the way. A year from now, when we're still doing sessions and we need a new music project, we're going to be called Naked, Greased Up Tom Hardy.
Hardy Dong is what I probably.
And again, full frontal Tom Hardy telling this other guy, "Grease up my back."
Yeah, he's yelling at him about
my war paint.
Don't touch my butt. No, wait a second. Go ahead.
Get in there. Get in there, you little.
Oh my gosh.
So
and
good.
boy, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I watched this morning at like 6:30 right before work, and I was like,
that is a way to start the day, man.
Could you imagine somebody reading that script for the first time, like script doctoring it or whatever, and just looking at Refn and going, how much cocaine did you use when you wrote this?